It is never too late to start living your life by design. If you have been wondering what part AI can play in your journey as a fashion designer, as a brand founder, then tune in because my convo today with fellow veteran of the fashion industry, Natalie de Groot, is going to help answer some of those questions that have been mulling through your mind as you see AI start to enter and infiltrate every single industry. How much of it should you be using? Where does it fit in for the brand you're building right now? And how can it help you in the future? Dive in to find out. I'm excited to dive into this episode, but before we go all the way in, I want to be sure you've heard about the label launch blueprint. Staying stuck in DIY mode has caused too many talented designers to burn out. So after decades of experience in the fashion industry, I've taken all of my brand, design, sample development, marketing, and production expertise and put together an easy to follow step-by-step roadmap so you can take the guesswork out of your launch strategy. No more going around in circles, wondering what to do when and how to do it, and not having support along the way. I want you to give yourself the gift of clarity. Head over to cmdesignagency.com/label launch blueprint for more info, and I cannot wait to connect with you. Now let's get back to it. Okay, hey, Natalie, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. So far, so good. I'm in Paris, so it's a little crazy here because tomorrow is going to be the opening ceremony.
Oh my
And
gosh,
yeah, it's like everything's blocked and it's like so much I
I
wasn't going to stay
saw.
this long, but my mom lives here and I wanted to spend some more time with her. And I have a
Oh,
lot of fashion stuff, and my brother got
mm-hmm.
married. So I've been here a long time, but
Oh my
yeah,
goodness, I love it. I love it. And how wonderful that you're able to spend time with your mom and your
yeah,
family. And your
yeah, no,
family.
it's I try to come here like every summer. Plus, Premier Vision. I don't know if you've ever gone to the fabric show, which is
Hello.
amazing.
That's why I used to travel to Paris every year.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's fun. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
got to go to London to the Scoop show, and there was Pure London, so I got to like do some work also. So that's always good to see Europe, because Europe, and
Yeah.
especially London, that show, it has so many beautiful original clothes, like, and labels that
Yeah.
not out there and stuff like that. So it's really good to see fashion in different parts of in Europe for sure.
Hmm. And
The
how was
capital of
PV? How was PV in particular?
Yeah, they changed the date because of COVID. They changed it to July, and it's always been in September, and it's always been really pretty good for everybody. But because
Yeah.
it's like fixed and it's in the summer and it's expensive for people to come, and it's tough. So, but it's always a beautiful show as far as looking at all the new
Hmm.
fabrics. They had some really
Sure.
good panelists, like speakers and stuff like that. So that's what I really enjoyed, is get like learning, just listening to that. Usually I run around with fabrics, but this time it's more about
Yeah.
the speakers and
Yeah.
stuff.
They
So that
brought
was
it to
cool.
New York so many years ago, and everybody, not everybody, but so many who were not able to go to the Paris shows, but the Paris PV is now able to go to PV in New York.
Oh,
And it's a
yeah.
pretty good show. I know they stopped all of those trainings for a while because, after COVID, but they're back.
Yeah.
They're back. They
Yeah.
have a new downtown location. Okay, so let's shift a little bit and talk about how you, who have been in this industry for a while, right? And you have all of these moving parts in your life, right? What do you do to start your morning so that your day is productive and meaningful and what you want it to be?
Well, I try to start the night before, actually, where I just kind of like write down what I need to get done and like really prepare. Like, if I'm going to go, I really like to work out, and definitely try to get that done, all the things for myself, because if I don't get the things done for myself, I feel like that's all I think about. I definitely like to, slow down in the morning, because once I get into my work, it's like I don't stop. If I go to my computer right when I wake up, all I think
Right.
about is all the things that I wanted to do for myself that I need to do. I like to have my
Ooh,
coffee. I like to just chill a little bit before I get right into it,
yeah.
because I was there and just like I won't
I
stop. So
get it.
I don't have to do it after because then that's all I think about is like, okay, now I'm gonna have to work out. So and it's like, that deep work where it's like, if you
Oh
don't
yeah.
get taken care of in the morning, then
You
yeah, get
forget it.
distracted. I like to make notes, I really like to like start the week off like Sunday, like really making sure that I try to accomplish all the more important stuff that I have to do because I like to do all the fun stuff.
Okay. Simple but meaningful that I take my walk in the morning as well, just to, just feel like a person, like literally. I have to do certain things so I can feel like myself before I get immersed
You get
into the
ideas
world.
when you walk, you get a lot of ideas and it like
Oh
helps you
yeah.
start as well.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. So, what first inspired your desire to create and to design and to get into this industry? How did it all start for you?
And I always was super creative growing up. Like going to school was just like planning my outfits. It wasn't really about like the
Mm.
schoolwork. Like, planning outfits for my friends. They were sleeping over. We were supposed to do our homework, but I'm like, okay, you're wearing this and you're wearing this, and
Oh,
like making clothes. And so I was always that girl that was like making the clothes, making everything. My mom would buy me something and I'd like redo it or make my own stuff. So
oh, I
my
love
parents
it.
always she's gonna be a designer. Like I was always super like crazy hair, like clubbing, like always like going out, having outfits. So that was like kind of like, okay, she's gonna be a designer. People always said that now he's gonna be a designer. So then my family was in the business. Like my uncle had a clothing line, and like my mom and my uncle's wife, her brother's wife, and hers started like a clothing line, and I was going to school. Like after school I would go and help them, and she taught me a lot also. I mean, in school I learned certain things. I went to FIDM like way back in the day,
Oh,
like
yeah.
ago. But so I went to school. After school I'd actually work with them, and they had a big client. I think it was like Signal or Merry-Go-Round that they were doing private label for. So
Mm.
she was a designer from London, and I was able to help them after. She was teaching me what to do, and then after that, well, she got pregnant, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go," and she was the only one who kind of knew about the business, and it was just like me and my mom because I was like, "Well, I'll just try to do whatever I can to help the business because she's pregnant and she's going to leave." So it was just me and my mom, and I took over the client,
Oh,
and it was
wow.
pre-computer and
Nice.
pre-everything. So there was
Yeah.
nothing. Like I had to like cut out, and I still have it. All these like I'd make little paper dolls with the fabric, and I'd send them a stack of like little tiny like cutting out literally like doll clothes because there's
Oh
no
my
photo.
God.
No, I know, and I have a whole book of like, and they would order like from that. So they'd be like, okay, we want this dress, and like these little cutouts with like and like little things because I couldn't really like draw like that. And then I'd send it to the client. They'd order like 2,000 dresses, and I was like, okay, cool. I ran downtown and like made that, and then from there they were going out of business, and I just said, I'm just gonna start my own label. So back then it was
Mhm.
just like naive and just passion and like stuff like that. So, like when I was 20, I guess I started downtown when I was like 2019 or something. I ran downtown and did all that stuff, and then I opened up my own company at like 22 to about
Nice.
28. Yeah, so I had got a showroom. It was like at the same time Juicy was coming out. So
Ooh,
our show,
okay.
so it was like
Were you in New
Juicy.
York? New
I
York or
wasn't in New
California?
York.
Okay.
I was in, but I had my showroom in New York. So
That's
I
what
had a showroom.
that's what I'm thinking. Okay.
Yeah, I had a
Ah,
showroom in New York
yeah,
and
yeah.
LA. So yeah, it was just like, and there wasn't a lot of competition back then. So, it was, and there wasn't a lot of people doing just whatever they wanted. It was like, I just was like making whatever, I didn't have any, it was my own company. So it wasn't like, oh, you can only make this. Nobody was telling me what to do until I started working for the industry. After
Hmm.
it was a struggle to have my own company, and that's when I started working. I knew BCBG Max from BCBG, like they were friends
Hmm.
with my boss and
Yeah.
stuff. So he's like, "Yeah, I need a designer," and my company was just like, I was young and it was too much, for the company part. I was a great designer, but
What did you design? What kind of clothing was it?
I did. Oh, so I started doing I loved the 70s, and I did crochet. So I
Mhm.
started buying up these. I didn't know how to produce like at that time in China. So I started buying crochet tablecloths, and I wanted to make all this like crochet stuff. So I opened up like my own kind of factory in my place. We got like a big warehouse, and then we would hand cut a bunch of crochet tablecloths, trim them in suede. I made a bunch of crochet jackets and pants, and oh my god, like the
What?
most gorgeous collection
Good.
out of tablecloths. Yeah,
You know
that
what I
was my.
love about everything you're saying? It sounds like, there's a traditional way to do things, right? But then there's
Yeah.
the creative's way to do things. You have been creative from day one. I have never heard of anybody cutting out little, skirts and tops to use
Yeah.
as flat stretches. And here you are also using non-traditional material to create these beautiful garments. I love that, Natalie. I love it.
And then I would call the guy. I made all like, I found. I think I bought up all the tablecloths from China, like
Wow.
everything. This guy was like importing all of that, and I made like, oh
Mhm.
my god, like I used the edges, and I made like these. It was all 70s, really cool. After that, then it was like, working. I was like designing with BCBG, and like that was like different the way they did.
Yeah.
Then it
Tell
got
me
a
more
little bit
about
because
that.
well, it was great because I got to be in like because I had my own company, so I never worked for a company. I worked with my mom, and then that turned into a company, and then I was like, I mean, I was so raw talent. I just made whatever I wanted, and everybody just like gravitated around it because there was no rules, there was
Mm,
no like power stuff, and so
yeah.
when I got, it was kind of a shock because I got into like this corporate, but not corporate because at the beginning of BCBG it was just starting out, and then I really felt the industry as far as like having to deal with people and in the fashion industry. So it was like all
Yeah.
the egos and all the like, like and I was just like, oh my God, let's make this. This is great, and it was like, oh, I don't know, and then I remember Vogue coming into BCBG, one of the editors, and she was like, oh, who made this? She's like, oh, don't you love it? And I was like, oh my God, you didn't even want to make that. Like, but I just saw like, it just really it was tough because I'm not coming from corporate is you have to have a certain corporate
Yeah.
attitude, not
Right.
sink in, and it's a whole personality that you have to have, and I'm just like this like artist, so I didn't know how to deal with like but it was a good experience for sure because I got to like see a different side of, and Max was really cool. Max knew me, so he was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I've never done leather before, that would be interesting. He goes, okay, here's your room. I'm all,
Ooh.
okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm just like, I'll put it
Yeah.
together. So he gave me the room. I got all the people, and I did an amazing leather collection for him. And we did a runway show in New York, and it was like the finale of the show. It was incredible. So that was really cool. I wouldn't have been able to,
And
because he didn't have to worry about the money. He was like taking care of the business. So
that's the
that
difference in
was
corporate, right?
yeah, because you don't worry about the money. I was
Yeah.
so worried about money all the time and how
Of
I was going to
course.
pay people and stuff. So he took care of that, and I got to. And with him, it was cool because he was so nice. Poor guy, he's not around anymore. But yeah, he was so open. Like after the leather, he let me. I was so into computers. Like for some reason, I was like, oh my god, I was like so into like technology. And I'm like,
Really?
Max, understand we can do prints and this on this new because I was
Oh,
going out with
yes,
the guy
yes,
at the
yes.
time. He was making club flyers, and I was like, I know how to do this thing. So he bought me a full computer setup, and I was doing all the prints, and yeah, so it was great. It was a great experience because he kept giving me like different things that I wanted to explore.
Nice.
So
So,
that
so for those that are thinking about, they're trying to decide whether they're going to launch their own collection or go into the fashion industry, because you started before, because you launched your collection before you entered the industry, that might give you a different perspective. So, what would you recommend? for creatives that are just not sure where to start?
I mean, it is really good to get it, like, just intern anywhere, just to figure out certain things of how people. I would have. Okay, there's two things. I would have liked to do that, but then I'm wondering if it would have killed my experience of being so free. So it's like
Yeah.
you need both in a
Yes.
way because you get into the industry, and I'm sorry, but this industry is just not made for you got to have a tough
It,
skin, like
yeah.
deal with people because it's a people industry too. As much as it should be about the product, it should be rallying around the product. Unfortunately, the product has so many people wanting to be a part of the product. So it's like when you're the designer, it's like a coveted position, and
Yeah.
everybody's like, I made it. No, I made it. No, like so you have a lot of that. Like, oh, I made it. It's like I don't care who made it. Let's just make it. Like it's just I don't know. So there's a lot of that. So it's like a personality thing. But I mean, it is good to like kind of. It's good to see that even if you did it on your like I did it on my own and when I went to other places I was like, you know what? I wasn't even doing anything differently than anybody else. So
Mhm.
that confirmation saying everybody doesn't even know what the hell they're doing sometimes. Like all the businesses, they all have their own way of doing things. It is good to just get the lingo and just to get and even intern just if you can intern or you get a job in a smaller company is better because then I think if you're going to have your own line, do it a smaller company so you can like really go in all the doors.
I
Yeah.
know, it's true. I never got to work for a smaller company. I worked for subsidiaries of bigger brands. That one had the Danskin line and Hanes, and then some private label for Kelwood Company. Are you familiar with Kelwood
I know.
in New
Mine
York?
works there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, she's in LA,
okay.
so she's very corporate. So she does
Yeah.
the sweaters for Kelwood. It's very business, so it's like
Oh, yeah.
creativity at that level. I mean, you still can be creative, but there's so much data that you're dealing with at the time. So it's like it's all such data driven that there's like the creativity sometimes is hard to like put in there because they're like, well,
Yeah.
let's data. It's like,
But yeah,
well,
but both are so useful though. But I just know that because I came up in corporate, like
yeah,
straight-laced corporate, I feel like I still move a certain way. So you're right. They literally get ingrained into your process. And yeah, I think they do stifle some of the creativity, although it's your job to shine through regardless, right? You have your
yeah,
design aesthetic that you bring to the table and you make it make sense for the buyers. But one thing I loved about the industry when I worked for corporate is you get to meet all of the players, right? You work with the buyers, you get to see the different steps in the process, and
it's a good training. It's a really good
it was
training
everything.
all the way around. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
not like loosey goosey. Like you definitely have to it's like the Olympics of
100%.
like you serious. It's not like oh we'll just do this or it's like you can't mess around. Like people that are in
No.
corporate are good at what they do. Like wow, you guys are really good.
I loved it. I loved it, but every their life changes, right? So I actually started my company after I left corporate. But I often wonder what it would have been like if I had my company before I went to corporate. So thank you for sharing all of that. I think, yeah, I would have maybe been even more free flowing with my creativity. But in corporate, you're working. I just had this conversation with a designer the other day, a couple of designers. Even in corporate, you're working for, there's a brand persona, right? There's a
Mhm.
brand, there's a customer that you're catering to. So you, the merchandiser, everybody, the production team, everybody is creating with that end customer in mind. So it is more structured, but I
Or you
really
can
think
go
that,
outside the lines at all. Like you are in a box and you're dealing with that customer, and the minute you try to get rid
yeah,
of it, it's like no, 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 no,
yeah,
no, come back. It's too
no,
much.
you got to
Like
bring it back.
bring it back.
Bring it back
Bring it back.
and be innovative within the parameters. But that's the only way you get sales, right? In
The only way
corporate
people have
or
to
for your
know that.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, they design. a true designer, like in the industry, if you're going to get a job, you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for the customer. And I
Exactly.
think designers get like really like they don't understand. They're always designing for themselves, and it's like, no, you're playing a role. What role are you playing? And you got to study the
Yes,
role
yes.
really well to be able to. And I think, that's where the frustrating like part comes in, where it's like if you're going to be that kind of designer, then I think you have to have your own company.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's the conundrum though. Even with your own company, there are parameters you have
Oh
to
yeah,
stay
yeah.
within.
We have to tell you this sold. Why are you making that? I'm like, this is gonna sell the next time. We can't make the same thing every time. And
Yeah,
yeah, you're always working for someone in the end. So
yeah,
whether
yeah.
it's
No way.
or customers. So
Right, 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 right. Okay, so to segue just a bit, because I'm so interested in your creative process, and I know that you have a multicultural background. How did that, if at all, how did that influence your approach to fashion design way back when? And how does it serve you even today?
I think having so my mother originally is from Morocco, and my dad
Mhm.
is from originally from Belgium, and my grandmother was English, and also my grandfather is from Amsterdam. So
Mhm.
just having, and then I'm born in California, so
Oh,
having this like yeah, so my mom was super fashionable. I would see, my mom would go to Europe and she'd bring me clothes. So I think just having that kind of European influence, because America, and just didn't have that much style back in the day. My parents have dabbled in like, they had a bathing suit line in France, and like, so having that influx of Europe early on, like my parents were like, we're like 11 and they're getting us like these spandex sparkle pants for, flippers disco, so I'm like, oh my God, we're wearing spandex sparkle pants at like 11, so like, it's just like this whole European, like,
yeah.
injection, I mean, it serves me because I can add a little, I know the American market too from growing up here. I can be really versatile when it comes to fashion because I had all that coming in from my grandmother. England is amazing. She was always dressed so beautifully. And Moroccan, like, so like that sexiness comes in from like this kind of Moroccan. So I think it's easy for me as a designer to understand a lot of different products and inject a certain bit of European, that European sense into products. So it just like, and I always was I love researching. So, and I still have a collection of 5,000 magazines that I've been collecting since like the 80s. I mean, I stopped because we have the internet and all that, but I have a huge library of them. They were all European magazines all the time.
They were so
I'm gonna,
useful. I think some of that has been lost, right, with this technology influx because listen, having those magazines, those stacks upon stacks, that's how we used to make our mood boards.
yeah, no, I used to love like, oh my God, my magazine. People are like, oh my God, you and your magazines. I'm like, just bring me the magazines.
I like the tangible part of the process still, but yeah, I do
Yeah,
kind of miss the
it's so
magazine
old.
days.
I know.
So, what are you working on these days? What does the typical day in your studio look like for you?
So now I've gotten really involved in the AI design, and I think that like that's the future. Like now I can
Mm.
design literally anything. I'm like the best designer in the world now with that. So
Ah,
that's why I'm
love
doing
it.
magazines. I could do anything like with AI, and it's just so crazy because a lot of people aren't really. I don't know. I think I'm explaining the internet to people like 5 years prior, and I've been really trying to push that. Like, I mean, making clothes for me, like, I'm kind of retiring from actually physically making the clothes. I will make them if I have to for like clients, but mostly consulting because I've made so many clothes and it's very difficult to make clothes. People don't realize they're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make clothes, but it's
Right.
really difficult. And unless like the fat, it's a trial and error thing. And people just think that, if you make something that, it comes out right the first time. I work with a lot of people and they're like, what's that? I'm like, that is going to be the most amazing jacket at about 5 tries. but it's going to be incredible. Don't even, because they want to drop it. Because I'm like, no, no, you don't see that this is the first one. It's not what it's supposed to be. So just wait, and then it'll be incredible. So now I'm just really focusing on the AI designs. I'm designing a lot of blueprints for collections. So it's like I'll take like a theme. Let's say it's like Love Shack Fancy or some kind of theme, and then I can make bags and shoes and jewelry and dresses. And what's great is like it's all one of a kind. So it's like if I make it, I'm making it and no one else will see it. It's not like grabbing it from a magazine or going sample shopping or Pinterest.
Uh-huh.
This is exclusively something. So I'm trying to get that off the ground. But again, AI is very early. People are scared of it. It's hard to reach out to companies because, designers get threatened. So if I'm not talking to the right people, I'm going to get dismissed because, they're scared it's going to take their job. But it's really going to enhance their companies. And, coming out with ideas all the time is really difficult. And now with AI, it's like, it's incredible what can be done.
And for those who are just getting into the AI piece, what platforms, what softwares would you recommend? I know Midjourney is one that people use.
It's
What?
good. Midjourney, Leonardo. I mean, it just really depends on like, if you're a designer or you're a photographer or, it really enhances because you know what you're looking for as it's like a chef. Like if we all have the ingredients, we can all go to the market and get the ingredients. We can all have the platforms. But the thing is that like if that's not your thing to actually make that meal, like, you're not gonna I don't know. It's like, with the prompt because people put the same things that I do and I say, okay, use Midjourney or use, there's now Firefly. There's a ton of different platforms. There's like
Yeah.
Refab, which is one. There's Raspberry, like for the industry, and there's going to be a lot more. But again, I take all my references, like because I have tons of references. So if it's like, oh, I want it to look like this, I'll add a reference that I know that it'll tweak it a little. But it takes a lot of time. It's not like it'll come out like one picture and it's done. Like you really have
Nice. So
to, you have to really work with
it
it,
seems like
advance
every
it.
few months something new comes out, you
Oh
know?
yeah.
How do
But
you
you got to
even
keep
keep
on it. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm on LinkedIn and like I have my little community there that says try this and then this comes out and I try
Uh,
that. But it's like if I
I,
wasn't on there with all those guys that I've been like following and we're following each other for like the last year with all the advancements that are coming out, I'm like lost. Even this guy today is like, "Oh, are you using trying this?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna go and try it." It's a lot to keep on top of. But I like the technology. I've
yeah.
always been into that. But a lot of people
Definitely.
get scared.
Yeah, I was so resistant to technology back in the day. I didn't even want to learn graphic design, but I had to, of course. But
Yeah, no.
and I never even mastered it because that was not my forte. That wasn't my thing. I mean, there are graphic designers who that's all they do,
Yeah.
but I never wanted to go that deep. So, how much technology do you think a typical designer needs to know how to navigate? For somebody who's launching their collection, who's building a brand from the bottom up, right? And they're going through the regular traditional process because they're launching real products. How deep down that rabbit hole would you advise they go? Is it necessary now, or is it something that they can just get an expert down the line to come on board and help them with?
Well, it's really important that whatever you want to make, that your pattern maker or whoever's making that piece really has a good idea of what you want. So, like a lot of
Mhm.
people that just want to start a clothing business, they don't even know how to draw. They always say, "Oh, I want to do this, but I don't know how to draw." Well, I
Okay.
don't think you need to know how to draw, but it is helpful if you know how to. Like I said, it's like you don't need to learn how to cook, if you want to make a meal, but it is helpful if you have some kind of idea of how to put it. So that was the thing. That's why I got into the computer back in the day because I didn't know how to draw. I mean, I could do flats like no problem, but when it came to
Yeah.
like showing what I needed to give to my pattern maker, I got into the computer and that helped me. It's difficult to learn though, like Illustrator. So if you don't know how to flat sketch,
Yeah.
and learning Illustrator, oh my God, it's like,
It's,
and trying to build an
it's a
Illustrator. So
whole, yeah.
helpful. So it just depends. Like if you're, I mean, obviously, if you're a designer and you know how to draw, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to get your design across, but there's also sample shopping. A lot of people just buy samples and say, I want to make this with the sleeve, Frankenstein it. So there's no like actual like this is how this is done. It doesn't always have to be one way to do it. So it's really just trying to get your point across. So, and it's
Exactly.
hard
Exactly.
because I have some clients and I'm doing AI for them. And of course, it's a pretty picture. And the way I do it, it's like I already know how to make the garment. So whatever I make in AI, I know that is possible to make because I already know how to make garments because
Mm-hmm.
I've made 35 plus years, of making everything twice or three times. I don't know. So I know exactly like when I see a picture, how to make it. I can make anything like you can make anything. But they don't know how to do that. It's like it's really difficult, because if you don't know how to do it, then your pattern maker tells you one thing, your sewer says another thing, the fabric, if you don't know, so it really is like it's a lot of trial and error. Every fabric does a different thing, and you don't even know what it's going to do. I mean, we know we've been
We have an
using
idea, but I do agree. You have to be a student of fabric, right? Of construction.
that. So
Mhm.
how do you know unless you've really, it's like recipes, you make a soup, it's like, needs a little this, needs a little that. Yeah, I mean, you really have to make stuff.
Yes, yes.
Fittings are a nightmare. I can't
Yeah.
with the fittings. Yeah. So, and then you got to know what's wrong with it right away. Like, okay, I
Oh,
got
yeah.
that. You didn't do it right. You didn't drape it right. You didn't do this. It's cut on the bias. It's not supposed to be, or whatever. Or you stitched it, or. So there's things that. And I say get a consultant because honestly, you're going to waste years. So I would always suggest someone to get a person that knows the industry like us or anybody like us that will definitely
Um,
help along the way, or you're just going to waste a lot of time and money. Honestly, a mentor or a consultant right away. It's in this industry. It's a must.
yes, yes. It'll shave off a whole lot of that learning curve for sure. But I always caution against trying to be a master of all parts of the process. You come to the table with your creativity, with your aesthetic, with your idea for the brand, your brand concept, and the customer that you want it to serve, right? Cater to and make feel good in their own skin. But that doesn't mean that you have to be a master illustrator, master pattern maker, right? A master seamstress or tailor. You cannot master everything. You're the
Yeah.
idea person, and you have to have that business acumen, of course, to manage your brand. But I find that a lot of the newer designers, they want to make their own pattern. And then when they realize that nobody can use it because it wasn't a production ready pattern, it gets
I
kind
know
of
they do. They want to
tough.
do everything, and you just
Mm.
can't do everything. And doing it on your own is so like. And I've done it. I've done it on my own so many times. And I just like. I know now that just the energy of having somebody else, like doing it,
Oh, yeah.
you get burnt out, and like you just can't. It's just not fun, when you have like a team or even one other person that you could do. That's number one. Like you got to know how to work with a lot of people because it takes a lot of people to make this happen.
Yes,
If
it
you're
does.
doing whatever you're doing, like you need a pattern maker, you need a sample sewer, you need a rep, you need, business, you
Mm.
need the person, for marketing. And then, if you go to China or you make here, make there, it's just not a one man show.
Absolutely not. And they have to know what their goal is too. Do they want to have an independent brand that is stays a size that is manageable for a small team? Or do they want to end up in big box stores where they're going to have to consider doing production overseas and need that bigger team? I think it just starts with, yeah, knowing what they want and then being willing to bring people on board to help execute that plan to make it
And you
actually
got to
happen.
really want it because it's a lot of work. Like it's really something that you really have to have the passion to do. There's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be something that you have to fix. I mean, as long as you can fix it, it's not a problem. There's a solution. But like,
Yeah.
it's like season after season. It's one of those industries that like you really got to give it your all, or it really doesn't work. I noticed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not a part.
Say again?
It's not a part-time gig. Like,
But some, they start that way, but it ends up being full time if you're really serious about it, right?
yeah.
So there has been talk recently about the ability for brands to have an AI brand ambassador who is literally the face of their brand, who can move and talk and show product like a real person. So one of the things I always talk about is the importance of being visible, being the face of your brand, putting yourself out there, getting people to know who you are and why you started your business, and attract that core customer who cares about the person behind the brand. So, with that in mind, how important do you think it now is to be the face of your brand? Do you think that the AI brand ambassador is going to be well received long term, or do you still believe in brand owners showing up for this thing that they're building and that they believe in so much?
I think that there has to be brand consistency. Like someone's
Mm,
got to have that, whether it's an AI model or, like I
mm,
just really that authenticity and that DNA
mm,
is whether
mm.
someone's going to be behind that AI model. For me, like, I mean, since I'm into AI, it's not scary for me to like that whole thing. But I just think you can't just have like this like Wizard of Oz in the back of that person, but
Yeah.
not have like whoever that is. They just have to have some. There's a lot of companies they just like, oh, I want a clothing company, and then they don't have this like reason for it or just this continuity of a product. And like,
Hmm.
sometimes when
Yeah.
there's a brand and they lose their founder or designer, it's just done. You
They're
can't
all
like
over
I
the
worked with
place.
a lot of brands when and they don't even know. So it's like I've worked
Yeah.
in a lot of brands where they left, or they got fired, or I don't know, something happened, and then they're scrambling people in it, and then everybody wants to jump in and be like, oh, I'm gonna do it, this, that. But so whatever it is, and whoever it is, it's got to be one person or or two people, whatever the team is. But all the brands that are super successful, it's that one mind that's
Mhm.
creating, have that
Yeah.
continuity brand. And the minute that person is not there, I think that's where it gets tricky. So it's got to be somebody that's
But the,
that
the
has an
brand itself should transcend the people that are operating within it, right? Because a brand, there should be like a brand ethos, having a DNA or like a brand identity that no matter who you are, what part of the process you tap into, you're all feeding into the same brand vision, like who you are as a brand and who your customer is,
everyone has to
what you're
stick to the
doing.
story. They all have to
Yeah.
stick to, and they're always straying, and everybody's trying to put another story in it. It's like it's
No,
not your story. This is the story. Everybody's got
exactly.
that
Stick to
story.
the
It's like, well,
story.
let's take another book. No, 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 no. This is the book, and we're just
Right.
gonna do it this book. But yeah, no. Once that person who is the person that has the book is gone, then everybody starts putting their own stuff in it, and it's just it,
Oh,
it ruins it. Yeah. So yeah,
definitely.
whoever is the keeper of, I think that's important. Like the Tom Ford of the company, like everything passes through the
Mhm.
desk. Doesn't
Exactly.
that doesn't work. No, this is so keeping the brand together is a job within itself. And there's so many companies that I work at that are like, well, let's put this into it. It's like she wouldn't wear that. That's not
Oh,
her. That makes a lot of money at the show. We saw the booth was, I'm like, yeah, but we
then
don't make
translate it for your customer, translate it in a way
that.
that your customer can understand then, but you can't be all over
And
the
if that
place.
trend is not your customer, then you can't follow that trend. That's
Exactly.
just not right. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's people have a lot of problems like knowing their customer, and I've had meetings with companies that are 20 years in that are like, who's our customer? I'm like, you
That
pick your
blows my mind. I don't understand that at all. That's
customer.
crazy. Why?
It's crazy. I know.
That
And
makes no
that's
sense. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. So, okay, so you're saying that whether they are the face of their brand or they use an avatar, having that, what I call brand persona, is what's important because it's going to move in the way the brand should be moving regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah? All
And
right.
the data is important with that too. It's definitely, people have problems with just, I don't know. It's always been a struggle because they don't let the designers design. It's all the salespeople who are not introverts, they're extroverts. So they have the mouths and they just tell the designers what to do. And then they're like, oh, well, it's the designer's fault. The designers
No, hello.
fired because they're
Oh,
introverts and they don't know how to stand up for themselves and say, look, I told you not to make that. And sometimes it's the person with the loudest mouth that gets the stuff done and it's not right. So yeah, that's a struggle.
yeah,
Feel for
that's
designers
not
out there.
good. That's horrible. But yeah, I know it happens. All right, so we're going to segue just a bit. What has been, with all that you've done, the most fulfilling part of your designer journey so far?
I think just the most fulfilling part would be
Mm-hmm.
being creative. Like, I think just having that creativity, and always able to evolve that because I'm always like, what am I going to do next? Like, how am I going to be relevant? Like, I'm 100. Like, I've been in this industry for so long.
Me
How,
too.
yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do I still want to be in it? And why is it like it keeps, like, and I don't know, I'm always evolving with it. Like even with the AI thing, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
but like, so I don't know. I just think because I'm evolving and then I, like, 'cause of course you get stagnant. It's like, okay, I've made everything. I have all the like, it's just, for me, it was just like, redundant. Like I don't, I'm in Paris. I loved shopping and all that, and like I did my style shopping, and I'm like, everything looks the same. Like I'm not excited about fashion.
Because that's where we used to go to get inspiration.
I know,
The
but it all, I
architecture,
mean,
the different stores. What?
you know, when you've been around that long and you've seen so many clothes
So,
and you've seen
yeah.
all of it, it's like, so that part with the, AI that made it like really interesting to be able to craft these images and like art. So I don't know. I just think, I don't know what was the question, but like what keeps, but
What's
like,
fulfilling? But you
what's the
answered,
question?
actually, you started to answer my next question, which was how do you stay motivated and inspired? So you kind of
So
blended
that's
the
figuring out, like literally, like I mean, just me learning AI was just on a whim.
two.
Like I was actually
Yeah.
delivering a package at DHL, sending something to China, and this guy who was helping me with the package, he's like, "Oh, I'm making T-shirts. Oh, you're a designer. I'm doing these like T-shirt graphics on this program, and it was on Discord at the time, and he was showing me his graphics he did, and I was like, how did you do that? Oh
Interesting.
my god!" And I was like, I'm gonna run home and try to remember everything he told me. And I figured it out. Just like
Ooh,
the club flyers that
that,
when,
that's
the
the
guy
scrappy.
showed,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, how the hell did he make these flyers? It was like Photoshop just came
Wow.
out. This is magic. So I had that moment again. I was like, oh wow, this.
Mm.
So that's why I'm like, oh wow. So if I could be in this industry for so long and still, because a lot of young designers don't even know about AI and don't even know about like this kind of thing. So I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
I keep learning at my age and my career and still keep relevant and also like completely interested in fashion still. So that was great.
Yeah.
That was like a moment where I was like, okay, I could keep going in a different way.
Nice. Nice. I know that for a new designer or a new brand, fully embracing this AI piece is going to be too daunting, right?
And a lot of people are just, scared of it, but it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
It
And
is.
it will be. It's like, I mean, it's like the internet. I mean, it's definitely like everybody was afraid of it. And like in the last,
Right,
even a month,
right, right.
it's like
I
that.
mean, I'm loving it more and more and more. I feel like literally every 2 months there's new stuff out there. But for the designers that I work with, yeah, AI is part of my program. Not the graphic piece. I'm talking about the data, the information piece.
Yes, the
AI
data
is
is
so
really good.
useful. So useful.
I mean, for me, I'm ready for the next, level. But for them, it's new. The traditional way
Yeah.
is. exciting. Like I have clients that are like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to make this piece." I'm like,
Yes, yes, people are
"Wow,
so excited about
so
starting from
excited!"
scratch, Natalie.
Oh yeah, my email from her was like, "Oh, I can't wait to make all these pieces come to life." And I'm like, "I'm
Eloise
done
collection.
after the pictures. Like that's it. Like
It's because you've done it a thousand times like me. But I'm still excited. It still excites me though. I'm still
when the
excited
finished
to
product
see.
comes out and you see
Yeah,
it, it's exciting. It's just the process, which you gotta love the
yeah.
process. You love the
Listen,
process.
the process is, yeah, yeah,
When it comes out and it looks amazing, like
yeah.
then it's all worth it. 'Cause so
It is.
but
It is.
but to get
It is. If you know your customer and you're actually getting sales, then it's
getting
very amazing.
sales, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else that we did not talk about that I didn't ask you that you want to share?
Well, I just love what you're doing for people. I think it's great. I mean, I
Oh,
remember you
thank you.
were on Clubhouse, and I remember you started the thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not a public speaker
Gosh,
like at all. I remember I was so shy to even like, oh
I
my
was like, "Come
god,
on,
like
Natalie, Fashion Brand Incubator."
I was like, oh
It
my
was
god,
great.
it was
It was
great.
great.
No,
Yeah. And little did
it's
you know that, you don't have to be a master orator to just, show up and be yourself and share your knowledge. You helped a lot of people in that room. And it's still there. We still have 13,000 something people. I haven't been on, but I am gonna go on and maybe just do
I know it was
a
good. You
little
had like
something.
all these followers. It was like a whole thing, and we were helping people and talking to people. I
We're
remember
helping
like
people. Yes.
people. And I think it's so important because this business is really
Yes.
hard. There's a lot
Exactly.
of different ways to do it. And I'm telling you, like, and everybody still wants to do it. I get emails like, oh, my son wants to start a clothing line. Just today, I got like an email and like, I don't, it's limited.
Are you
And I know,
discouraging?
no, I
Are you
don't. I don't. No, I don't discourage nobody. I
okay?
just, no, no, no. In my mind, I'm like, are you fucking crazy? But
You're
like,
like, are you ready for the journey? To how bad do
yeah,
you want it? Yeah, I
I get
get that.
excited for them because, like, for me, it's like going to Disneyland for the first time. Like to
Yeah,
see it
yeah.
through their eyes, to see the passion,
Right,
and I
right.
can help them. And like when I hear someone wanting to start something, like I want to jump in and help them and like guide them because it is. It's like it's hard and people want to make everything and you want them to start small and it's a 5-year plan. It's a whole thing and like I said, there's no one way to do this business, but there is a way to do it with the help of consulting or mentors that definitely won't get you so into trouble. There's a
Oh
because
yeah.
then a lot of people start and and then they do it again and it's exhausting. Like if you don't do it right.
That's yeah, because they're going around in circles. They don't quite know what to do when. And yeah,
And
that's my pet peeve. I don't like when they are just left to their own devices and they get discouraged and give up.
they get
They
discouraged.
waste all of their
Yeah,
capital and just give up, but they never really did it the way it
it should be
actually
done.
gets done. Yeah,
No, and a lot of people like rip them off, which I hate people getting ripped off. Like
right.
it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like $5,000 to patent or whatever. It's like they don't even have the
Listen, yes, that's happening
that's
a lot.
a
Yeah.
lot. I'm like, oh my
But
god,
I could tell you stories. I mean, the designers that come to me, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
they
Yes,
spent
they're
like
getting
20,
ripped
like
off.
20,000 or something, and then they get like two things. I'm like, oh my
And then they
god,
can't even do anything with it because they
no,
don't even have a brand. So they'll help them make the sample, right? And nobody cares what they do with it after. It's like,
no,
yeah,
and
I'll
that's
charge you all this and you'll have a beautiful sample. But what are you going to do with it? You don't have a brand.
they don't have a brand. And
I don't
honestly,
like
you've got to work backwards today too, because I know how to make clothes. I've made beautiful collections. I know how to tie a beautiful ribbon around it, and it's like ready to go. But the sales, that's really difficult. Like that part, like you have to have that figured out first, because then you
Yes,
put the process
yes,
into it. Because
that
honestly,
part.
if you know your sales like situation or that path or how that's going to
Right.
get distributed, I work with a lot of people and we make gorgeous collections, photo shoots, websites, amazing. But the sales are not there. They're lacking.
Because
And
they
then
have
like
no customer base that is
no,
actually aware of what's coming and no marketing plan.
yeah, and
So
now you
yeah.
get lost on the internet. Like, so I think the authenticity of the brand is really important. Like, you have to be
Yeah.
the person or have the connections or use a celebrity name or whatever. Back in the day, I was making really cool things and we would put a business around that because businesses were built around product, and it's now a product is not it's important, but the business needs to be built first and then you can throw a product in, because there's so much now.
Yeah,
So,
I just saw a brand, Anifa. I don't know if you're familiar with Anifa. She was a designer for quite a while, I think since 2012, but she launched her first. She was the designer, you'll know her this way. She was the first designer in the industry to do a digital fashion show. Do you remember 2020? And
mhm.
then some others were saying, "Oh no, some other person did it first," but everybody who knew that she did the first digital collection in the industry. But
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
I digress. She started with these beautiful dresses and these separates, right? I just saw, I think it was this morning, she just segued into bags. So she's coming for the bag market. But
Right.
before she was able to do that, she built a brand around a customer, the woman. I think she calls it the limitless woman. So there's a persona, there's a meaning behind her brand. There is a certain aesthetic, a certain type of fabric, a certain type of drape and silhouette that her customers love, right? So she built that thing, grew it, and then moved into another category,
That's how
right?
to do it.
So,
Like,
but it was more about her, to your point. It wasn't about the beautiful dress, although one of her first ads was amazing. And yes, the dress stood out so much. I think Zendaya ended up wearing it. But
oh,
it really
great.
was more about the brand than the product.
You gotta just build that out. Like, because
Hmm.
the most beautiful things, I've done it. I've done it for people. Like, but you have to have a sale. So that part is proving to be very difficult for people.
Oh gosh, so we've had a good conversation. We've gone all over the place with it, but I loved every minute. We're getting short of time now. So my last question is, when it's all said and done, right? And you are done with this industry, you've lived and created and shared everything that your heart desired. How do you hope to be remembered in the industry or with those that you leave behind, those who have seen how you move through life? What impact do you hope to have made?
I mean, just like that, I never gave up. Like, I
Mhm.
stuck to what I believed in. I've always stuck to fashion. I see like my cousins who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that." So I pretty much stayed the whole time being true to myself.
Mhm.
And I've always been like just an artist, and that was a bad word before, or I used to be
Yeah,
ashamed of being an
right.
artist and back in the day,
Yeah.
and it was kind of like, oh, is
Yeah.
not,
You're what?
but it was not, it's like, okay, so I
Mhm.
don't know, I guess just kind of like never straying from who I am and always
Mhm.
like did things my own way. So I think as an artist, your first love is your art. So it's like I never married, I didn't have kids, and like at first I was like,
Mhm.
oh my god, that's the kid part is over, but marriage that'll happen. So hopefully,
Oh,
but
okay.
just definitely just kind of did it my own way and not like
Mm.
even though like I'm not like a total like extrovert type person and I was always shy, but I just definitely didn't let anybody tell me differently. Like even though like I'm not as strong, I do have inner strength, I think. But yeah, maybe so. I guess to be remembered is just like just being authentic and just true to myself, and not really caring in the end what anybody really thought. Even though I think I cared a lot. When you're younger, you care a little bit more, but like definitely didn't care enough to like do the things that didn't feel authentic to me.
Yes, yes. I love that answer. I love that answer. I think that's huge.
And I see
Hmm.
like my mom, like older people, like I mean I'm old too, but like having that in your life, it's like I feel like you always have something. You don't feel alone because it's like when
Mm.
you're alone, you turn to your creativity, who's like your best friend.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like you don't
part
need
of you.
people to entertain you and like always have to run out and like meet someone or be so I really think that if you're creative and you're interested in that, I think you're just always gonna like be okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Natalie, thank you for, first of all, let me
Yeah,
thank you for the all the years that you were with me on Clubhouse
I love
because
it.
I don't know if I ever got to properly thank you. You did contribute a
That's
lot,
awesome.
and I'm
No,
really
thank you
grateful
for like bringing me on stage because honestly,
for
like I
that.
remember just like, oh my god, like freaking out. So it's because of you that I'm even able to like talk today. So thank you.
Which brings me to today. Thank you for taking the time to sit and
Yeah,
have a chat with me again. I
yeah, wow.
appreciate you tuning in all the way from Paris. I know we intended to for you to be in California when we did this, but thank you for still making it happen. I appreciate
No,
you.
no, I appreciate
And
you too. Thank
love to your family. Safe
you.
travels. Okay, and
Thank
we'll talk again soon.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll come
Thank
visit
you.
you in New York when I get
Yes.
there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Life by Design show. We welcome your feedback, so if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with your friends. And if there's someone you think I should consider bringing in for a combo, send me a DM on social. Thank you again, and I'll see you on the other side.